Hello and welcome to Partners in Public Safety. This is a program where you get to meet the men and women of the Wilmington Police, Fire, and Emergency Management teams. We learn a little bit more about each other and we work together to make this a safer city and improve public safety here in the city of Wilmington. We begin with the Wilmington Police Department in this segment of the program, and first up on the program is Corporal Mark Ivy with a little bit about what's called Cops in the Parks.
Making sure that you feel safe in your neighborhood is one of the primary missions of the Wilmington Police Department. The citizens of this city have a right to enjoy their outdoor public spaces to play and grow without the fear of violence. We realize that it often takes only one or two bad individuals hanging out in a park to attract the wrong crowd and make an area unsafe for everyone. We also realize that strong neighborhoods with active community members can discourage drug dealers and other criminals from congregating in that area. The Cops in Parks program put officers in a different park each Wednesday this summer to create a safe zone where children and their families could gather without fear. The officers will be there to talk to and play with children, to work to break down barriers and build relationships with the community. Children will get to see officers with our hats off in a more relaxed environment, which hopefully will allow them to feel more comfortable with police and see us as people. On certain Wednesdays, the officers will partner with other agencies and conduct presentations on subjects such as bike safety and fire prevention.
Okay, good.
It is our hope that the Cops in Parks program helps to build stronger and safer neighborhoods that we can use as a foundation for the future.
All right, and live with us on the set is Corporal Mark Ivy. Thanks very much for that report. And also joining us is Corporal Jermaine Crawford. And they're our regulars here on this segment of the program. Okay, so Cops in the Parks. Mm-hmm. You told us a little bit about that. And so the whole idea is, I guess it's just another effort to reach out to people.
It is. It's a great opportunity is really what it is. Mm-hmm. Because we can get out there, meet the kids, meet children, and they're the ones who are the future of this city. And their relationship with the police department is going to be really important as they grow up. And we're hoping that, again, like in the spirit of this program, that as they grow up, they're comfortable with police officers. They feel, again, more comfortable talking with us, seeing us in their neighborhood, and that'll pay off down in the end.
Well, you know, I'm going to be frank with you about something. I know we have families in this city, unfortunately, that don't teach respect for police officers. In fact, they probably highlight the police officers as the enemy. Mm-hmm. And so that's tough. I mean, you know, and this is what gets me about this. Every time we get into either whatever title you want to use, community policing, or getting to know people in the neighborhoods, mm-hmm. I mean, come on, you have a tough job. I mean, you're out there, number one, trying to do your work in terms of the bad guys. But then you have to overcome some of this that's not being taught in the home.
Well, we have a lot of families, they sort of dehumanize us. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that they look at us as just a uniform or just an authority figure. In the Cops in the Parks program, what we can do and what we plan to do is to kind of set that aside, and people in the community will be able to see us as the human beings that we are. Right. That we're just here to try to help the community and help protect the families in our communities.
Yeah. So is this going to be an ongoing thing? Obviously, I know when we get into cold weather, it's not going to work. But
no.
But you're just going to keep this moving?
Well, it's scheduled through the end of the summer.
Yeah.
And again, the idea being that in the nice weather, people want to be outside. They want to be in their public spaces. And as we just mentioned, they have a right to do that.
Yeah.
So if cops can be out there, provide some safe time for people to be out there in their neighborhood, in their parks, we're hoping that, again, kind of can build a safer community. Because building safe communities and strong neighborhoods is really what we need to do as a police department.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all got to work together. How many times do we say to each other, well, you say to the community, look, help us.
Right.
If we have some incident out there, and unfortunately mm-hmm. we've had our share of shootings, but if there's something happening, we're always looking for the public's help. How do you think this is working? How's the community responding? You've been out there a number of weeks already.
I think it's going really well. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you saw in the segment just a little bit of what's going on.
Yeah.
The kids seem happy. The officers are happy to do it. Anytime you get people together to do something other than having, let's say, the police come in and lock up your dad, lock up your cousin, your mother, that's the negative influence that the kids see. They don't always understand why we're there in a house, having to arrest some people sometimes.
Yeah.
So they see us in a positive light. Only good things can come from that.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, I wish you the continued luck with the program. And I know the police department you're always thinking of ways to get out there in the community. In spite of what we hear in terms of criticism sometimes about the police department not wanting to be with the community, I've only seen things in my time here in the city where the police actually do want to be in the community. And you know, and the other thing too, and we're going to highlight this on some other segments of the program, is you know, what the police officers do aside from when you've got uniforms on. I mean, you're out there helping kids learn to read and everything else that you should be doing as good citizens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, now let's turn to something that we all have to deal with, including me, who panics. I've only been picked up, let's see, twice in my life for a ticket. In other words, I see the flashing lights, and I'm being pulled over by a police officer,
Right.
and I get a ticket. So let's talk a little bit about these moving violations. What types of moving violations are there, and how bad are you guys really out there with these drivers?
I'd like to say our agency here in the city, we're pretty relaxed, and we try to help the community out as best as possible. With that being said, we try to help people out as much as we can. If you run a stop sign, we will give you the opportunity to explain your situation. Maybe you're running late for something. Maybe you had a child in daycare and you're running late. We know how those fees can be. So we will listen to the story. However, again, that's where the interaction we determine whether or not we're going to give you the ticket.
Yeah.
And that is that initial interaction. When we approach the car or the vehicle and we're getting yelled at, we're getting screamed at, that can determine your fate.
You'd be surprised how many people actually yell at us. Like they get, you might have seen them in maybe like a police, like a cops type show where people start yelling at cops.
Yeah.
I was shocked at the number of people who are just blatantly disrespectful. I don't know about you, but when I first started driving, my mom told me, she says, Mark, if you get pulled over by the cops, keep your hands on the steering wheel,
Yeah.
say yes sir, no ma'am, yes ma'am, and listen, do what they say. Don't argue with them, and you'll be all right.
Yeah, well, look, you have the police officer has the control, and that's how it ought to be.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. So when we, you know, and this even goes back to the cops in the park story that we did at the top of the show. I mean, I think families watching this program ought to teach the children to have respect for the police officers, and adults also ought to have respect for police officers. The other thing I think we ought to remember is, I think the speed limit in most streets in the city of Wilmington is about 25 miles an
25
hour.
miles an hour.
25 in the city.
Right, and there's a reason for that. If you have these dense areas like these urban areas, you want to be careful in your travels. You've got kids, you've got schools, you've got churches, you've got people crossing these rather narrow streets.
Children running out into traffic chasing balls.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the other thing. It's not about some sick enjoyment that police officers get, pulling people over and writing tickets, and we don't go back to our car and laugh. It's really a safety concern is what it is.
Absolutely.
And we have to, there has to be some enforcement, some regulation that makes sure that people obey these laws, which are in place, as you said, for a really good reason. So
Yeah.
that's part of our job, and if we're not there to do it, no one is.
Right. And there are other things, too, that I think is interesting, too. Think of it this way, folks. You're out driving around, and police officers are observing. That's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
That's why, for instance, you may want to know, well, wait a minute, how did he see me run that stop sign? Or how does he know, you know, I made an illegal turn or whatever? Well, that's what cops do. They observe. But there are other things you observe, for instance, like, do you actually look at things that are on the car, like bumper stickers, tinted windows, things like that? I mean, you have to watch that stuff.
Sure, we're looking for registration stickers. We're looking at things that you're not supposed to have on your car that can, you're actually, like, for example, technically, you're not even supposed to have things dangling from your rearview mirror.
Really?
People have all sorts of things. They have CDs dangling for some weird reason. They've got air fresheners. They're not allowed to do that. Things like tint. Tint's a safety concern for police officers. If you're allowed to have a certain degree of tint on your rear windows, but if you have tint on your front windows, that's illegal unless you have a doctor's note. And that's a safety concern because we need to be able to see into the car, especially picture this, you're walking up on a car, it's late at night, you can't see inside because of the tint. Well, it's already dark out and then there's the tint involved. That can be a serious situation. You never know what's going to be inside that car.
Right.
And indeed, we had Officer Wilkers who was shot during a traffic stop.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that annoys me as a driver, by the way, are the tinted windows in the front. I like to, I think we all do. I mean, there's a certain, as far as I'm concerned, amount of safety to be able to see somebody who's coming up next to you or whatever. I don't like that.
We all fear the unknown. Let me just tell you, I pulled a gentleman over not too long ago, and he had the tint on his windows, but he was also speeding through the neighborhood. And ironically enough, when I stopped him and I approached him, he's yelling at me saying that isn't there other crime going on in the city, and is there anything else that I can do? And again, we hear that pretty much all the time.
Every day.
But again, it's the interaction with the officer. And again, it's our safety as well as your safety and the safety of the entire community that we're looking after.
Do you get upset if you, or not upset, but I mean, do you take note if someone has a radar detector or a speed detector?
Oh yeah, we definitely take note. You're not allowed to have one of those. I actually don't see too many. I think people are if they have them, they're pretty good about realizing, hey, I got pulled over, I better hide it. But people have so many things up in their dash now between GPSs and things like that it's kind of, to be perfectly honest, it's kind of hard to tell just from afar whether it's a radar detector or not. So no, we're not really running around pulling people over for radar detectors.
And now, I've always thought too, all of us, we do different things to our cars. A lot of people like to soup up their cars, fix up their cars, and that's fine.
Yeah.
However, people can be really stupid too, because some of those that like to do that also are out committing crime. So that's something else for you all to see, like extra lights or whatever they may have on their car.
And like Jermaine said, people will yell at us sometimes when we pull people over and say, "Don't you have any other crime you could be dealing with?" Well, if you pay attention to the news and all the news releases we're putting out, there's a lot of crime that we're preventing. We're getting a lot of gun arrests, drug arrests. We're serving warrants. And those all start from traffic stops, from maybe a simple violation as speeding or a registration sticker that isn't there.
Yeah, and look, I think folks need to understand there's a reason why you do the DUI stops and the other traffic checks that go on from time to time. And that is because people are out, unfortunately, doing things they shouldn't do.
Well, bad guys have to get from point A to point B.
Exactly.
They have to get there some way.
And so if they go through a checkpoint, you have a better shot of getting them.
And we do all the time. We actually had a checkpoint last year. We caught a murder suspect. He was just driving to the checkpoint. Had a gun on him, and he was wanted for murder.
If anyone's interested in seeing some of the vehicle stops that we've made arrests, just check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wilmington Police.
Okay, good. So get a better idea of what you're out there doing and why you're doing it. Alrighty, good. So please, folks, just have respect for the police officers. Teach your children to have respect for police officers, and you, if you're driving, respect the police officers. It's pretty simple. I mean, I get a little annoyed sometimes because, I mean, as you said, Mark, we're kind of brought up that way. We should learn to respect others, and it's not just police officers. We should learn to respect everyone that we interact with.
And we don't expect you to like it, but if we all can treat each other with a basic level of respect, we'll get along a little better.
All right. You give us a chance in this program, also each program, to help solve an unfortunate crime. And we've been focusing on these segments on murders. We call the segments Cold Case. Okay, now here's our chance to help you once again with a case that is, this is a murder and it's just not been solved. What year are we going back to?
1991.
91. Okay, tell us a little bit about this case.
All right, we have Marie Brown, who was a 75-year-old elderly woman who lived in the 2800 block of North Harrison Street. She was last seen by a friend May 2nd around 9 o'clock that evening. So sometime between May 2nd, 9 o'clock, and 4 o'clock the next morning, May 3rd, two subjects entered her basement and attempted to, rob or burglarize her home. They made their way up to the second floor where Marie was sleeping and brutally beat her to death. The suspects fled the residence, leaving with a bank card and a checkbook. Now, they used the bank card, they attempted to use the bank card, and unfortunately it didn't work for them, but they ended up getting some money out of the bank with the check, undisclosed amount. We have some leads, but again, we want the community to give us a call, let us know if they remember anything from this incident back in 1991.
How about the 2800 block of
North Harrison Street.
North Harrison Street? That's a shame, 75-year-old.
Yes.
And 1991. So what's the telephone number in case anything you've said jogs somebody's memory?
They can call Detective Path at 302-576-3643.
And I noticed as you were giving us the rundown, you know, I would imagine as investigators, the police, anytime there's a credit card involved or check, and somebody's trying to obviously do something with somebody else's money, you might have a lead there, but obviously it didn't work out in this case.
Well,
sometimes you even get pictures.
Absolutely. We've had some pitches and some surveillance, but again, the technology back in 1991 is a little different from what it is right now, which is why hopefully we can jog someone's memory and they can give us a call and let us know.
Okay. And as always, I join with you in giving our respects to the family of Marie Brown.
Absolutely.
It's tough to bring these cases back up publicly again because it brings back these bad memories, but it's the only way we can try to find the murderer or murderers.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, on to a much more happy note, and that would be anytime you can get more police officers out on the street, that's a good thing. And just in the last few days here, we've had the graduation. Was it 95th?
95th Police Academy.
95th Police Academy. And here's some pictures from the Chase Center. And tell us a little bit about the graduation ceremony and these new officers.
Well, we had 24 new officers graduate. There's also one City of Wilmington fire marshal and one town of Newport police officer. So all these officers, 26 of them total, again, 24 for Wilmington, just completed 22 weeks of a police academy. And that includes an academic curriculum where they learn everything from Title 11, which is criminal code, Title 21, which is traffic code, constitutional law, everything in between. There's a whole lot to being a police officer, as we all know, including things like social work, dealing with sick people of all sorts. So they're learning an awful lot. And they also have to complete a pretty tough physical regimen. It's a lot of physical training every day, defensive tactics, driving, shooting, the whole gambit.
Okay, well that ceremony, the graduation ceremony is absolutely wonderful to see if people have never seen a graduation ceremony. And the most heartwarming thing is for family or friends to actually pin that badge on your chest where you officially become a police officer.
It's a moment of pride for everybody, for the officers and the families. And as a department, we're really excited. It's always nice to have new faces, little infusion of energy, and they start on Monday, and
Now,
we're looking forward to it.
Well, they start, but they're out there with more veteran officers, if you will.
This is more or less their preseason. They went through their mini camp, and now this is the preseason. They get to go out.
Football analogy.
The football analogy. They get to go out into the field and interact with the community and showcase their talents and what they bring to the table.
Well, and you're going to be watching them too, because now this is where it counts. They've been in the training, but now they're actually out there in the community, and we've got to watch them and make sure they're performing as they should.
And we have 6 months. They spend 6 months with a senior field training officer who's going to teach them the ropes, kind of teach them how the street actually works and how they can apply everything they've learned and work so hard for.
Okay, and I think in a future program, we're actually going to have some of the new officers on the show with us.
Yep.
We're going to bring a few of them on. How many years are you removed from the academy?
It'll be 5 years, September 2nd.
And you, Corporal?
Same class.
Yeah, same
the
class.
93rd.
Okay, and look at the work you're doing now in your 5 years and how much you've grown.
Absolutely.
It's been an amazing. It's a whirlwind of 5 years. I can't believe it's already 5.
I can imagine what you've seen and heard and done in 5 years.
Well, these men and women who just graduated are going to have a great career ahead of them.
They're diamonds in the rough. They should be here soon.
Yeah, we wish them the best of luck and be safe, as you all say to each other. All right, that does it. Always good to spend time with Corporal Mark Ivey and Corporal Jermaine Crawford. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, John.
Okay, and Partners in Public Safety will continue in just a moment.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Get your ass suit. You're not sitting here.
Yes, I am.
Move. Give it to him hard.
No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why are you stabbing me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how.
Oh, you got...
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
And we continue now with Partners in Public Safety. We thank you very much for being with us on the show today. And we thank you also for your kind comments when we see you out on the street and you tell us that you like these segments where we introduce to you the men and women of the Wilmington Police, Fire, and Emergency Management teams. It's always good for us to get to know each other a little bit more and work together more closely to make this a safer city. Now, in this segment of the program, we're going to focus on the Wilmington Fire Department, as we do on many shows. And in particular, we're going to look at emergency medical service, or, for lack of a better term, the ambulance. If you need some help, boy, I'll tell you, our firefighters are here for us, just as our police officers are. And with us right now is Captain Demetrius Todd. And Captain Todd is our expert in the fire department as far as emergency medical service. And it's good to have you with us on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to start with a video. You actually shot a video for us. Well, you didn't shoot it, but one of our people shot it for you. But you're going to do some narration, kind of get us into this whole issue. We have lots of questions about what I've always called it. I was born and raised here, so I always call I just say the ambulance.
Right.
But I know we have the more sophisticated term, as we should, emergency medical service, and there are all other terms that we want to talk about. But first, let's take a look at the video, and you tell us what we're going to see here, okay?
No problem.
All right.
Right here, what you see is Fire Station Number 1, located on 2nd and West. We have 3 ambulances, rescues 2, 3, and 6. The firefighters, at the beginning of their shift, they do a truck checkout to ensure that all the equipment and tools and items that are needed are there to provide a service. Right here, you see the guys just shooting the breeze at the watch box, talking about variable things that could happen throughout the day. That's Firefighter Black. He's going into what's called our EMS cage, and he's checking for the cleanliness of the cage. He's checking to make sure all the tools and materials that's there are readily available to put on the truck in the event that those things are used while they're out there.
Right. So all your supplies, we see everything that,
Right.
that you may need for an emergency.
Right. Now, what he's looking at now is multi-trauma dressing. He'll look for AEDs, non-rebreathers, bag valve masks, glucometers. Right there you have firefighter Riviere. He's providing patient care to a patient, and he's gathering pertinent past medical history so they can determine which route he needs to go with respect to his care.
All right. And I know you try to do this, for instance, and that of course is a firefighter there playing the role of a patient, but it's vitally important. Not only are you trying to do your best to immediately treat someone who may need emergency service, then you're trying to gather whatever information or data might be beneficial as you transport this person to the hospital.
Absolutely. When they get that information, what he does is he write it down on a pad, and we provide the initial care. And when the outside agency, in this case, which would be St. Francis Hospital, comes, we pass that information along to them, and they in turn pass that same information along to the hospital.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Right there, what he's doing is he's taking the firefighter's vitals. He's utilizing a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. He also has a pulse ox on his finger to measure how much oxygen is in his blood to see if he's...
What did you call it?
It's called a pulse ox.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so firefighters use a lot of different equipment, and it's important to note that the same services that the firefighters are providing is exactly the same services that St. Francis Hospital provides as well. So when a constituent see a firefighter or a group of firemen pull up on a fire truck opposed to an ambulance, they shouldn't be alarmed because
I got you.
they're getting the same type of service that they would get.
And that's good, because that is a question that comes up, even though we're seeing now the actual EMS vehicle. Sometimes these EMS experts in the fire department will show up in a fire truck.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Maybe 95% of the time you're going to see a fire truck opposed to an ambulance show up. Yeah.
Now, and this, of course, is, if you're just joining us, this is at 2nd and West, where at the moment, now here's the St. Francis vehicle,
Correct.
just to take a look at the difference between our Wilmington Fire Department
Right.
EMS units and the St. Francis Hospital units.
So the viewing audience, the important thing to note here is that the St. Francis truck, the blue and white truck, will be the truck that they will see more than likely take their loved one away to the hospital for treatment.
Okay.
Now right here, we're just showing how the fire truck responds to whatever type of emergency
Right.
that's going on. That was an actual emergency.
Right.
Yeah,
while
so that's not staged.
While we
just
were
happened to be
taping
in the
this
right
video,
place,
yep,
right.
you had an emergency. Okay. Heading up West Street.
Yep. And that's them coming back.
Okay. And I always get a big kick out of you guys maneuvering these these huge vehicles back into the openings of the fire station. All right, so very good. And so that's Wilmington Fire Station number 1, and that's at 2nd and West. And at the moment, though, the EMS units are housed here at 2nd and West, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about, I want to learn a little bit more about response time. Now, the Wilmington Fire Department has one of the best response times in the country.
Absolutely.
Not only for fire, but for emergency response.
Correct.
So that's why we'll see you first. If,
Right.
if we're called, let's say there's a call for a motor vehicle accident, heart attack, some medical issue, we see you.
Right. What happens is, for those of you that don't know that's watching, we have 6 fire stations that are strategically located throughout the city. So if there was an accident, like on the west side of the city, either Station 1 or Station 6 will respond to that motor vehicle accident.
Okay.
Our response time is so good that we can get there within 2 to 3 minutes from the time of dispatch. Oftentimes, St. Francis Hospital may be on the opposite side of the city. So it's imperative that, you know, when you call and you need help, you have somebody that's there. So that's why we go there, we stabilize the patient, we gather all that pertinent medical history that firefighter Rivera got that you've seen in the clip previously, and then we pass that along to St. Francis Hospital to get them boarded up, loaded into the back of the ambulance, and transported to whatever hospital they like
Right,
to go
and
to.
the idea here is to do as much as we can to make sure that that immediate medical issue is dealt with as quickly as possible, and then hopefully that person will be okay by the time he or she gets to the hospital.
Correct.
You use like a grid system too, I know. When we looked at one show, we were looking at the actual fire or response for fire, and that is set up so that our engines and ladders are based around the city so they can get to the fire as quickly as possible. Same way here that you were describing as far as emergency medical
Right,
service.
right, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one more time, the relationship between the Wilmington Fire Department and St. Francis Hospital. The city has a contract with St. Francis.
Right, they have a 3-year contract with St. Francis Hospital where St. Francis Hospital is the 911 transport company for the city. Now, if the city get overwhelmed with calls and there's a extenuating circumstance where there's additional need for ambulances to come into the city to provide a service, then we'll lean on the county ambulance units to come in and help out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, this is good. And I'm glad you explained why, because we do have that question a lot of times, is why a fire, I called for medical service and a fire engine shows up.
Right.
And that's why.
Well, the other thing with that is, in the Wilmington Fire Department, we have 172 members. Out of the 172 members, roughly 125 of them have emergency medical technician, EMTB or higher certification.
Yeah.
So that's more than three-fourths of our department.
Absolutely.
So
And they're ready to go.
they're ready to go.
And,
So the people here in Wilmington they really are receiving a superior service when we
And-
show up.
Well, we're very lucky here in Wilmington. And Captain, we have to run. It was a very interesting segment, and we thank you for joining us. Our guest has been Captain Demetrius Todd, and our subject has been emergency medical service here in the city of Wilmington. If, God forbid, you do need that service, we are very lucky here in the city of Wilmington to have the trained men and women of the Wilmington Fire Department, and also our contract and our friends over at St. Francis also. Thank you, Captain,
All
for
right,
being
thanks for
with us.
having me.
Okay, good. And this has been Partners in Public Safety. We thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.